Every Shopify site I take over has the same problem. It's slow, not because the dev was lazy, but because Shopify makes it really easy to accidentally build a slow store without even realizing it. So there's 3 things, so make sure you stick to the end of the video. There's the obvious problem, there's the systemic problem, and there's the hidden one that nobody's really talking about yet, especially if you've been using AI to write JavaScript. Alrighty, so here inside the screen, I'm going to show you the first thing we need to optimize, which is our images. So first things first, with the image, you'll notice that we are just using an HTML image tag, which if you've been using AI, Claude, Cursor, any AI tools to code, quite honestly, the AI uses this quite a bit and it is bad practice. Essentially, we'll want to dynamically load different images based off of screen size. So if we have a big screen, we'll want to load a larger image. If we have a smaller screen, we'll want to load a smaller image. And so the best thing to do is actually use the liquid image tag instead of the HTML image tag, like so. And you'll notice that when I go to inspect the screen here, that our image has different image sizes based off of source set. So essentially what we're doing here is we're saying that there are 3 different widths. There's 400, 800, and 1200. And any time that we have an image that is less, or the screen width is less than 1200, well, then we will want to make the 400 or 800 image width show, which is exactly what is going on here. Also, if you are smart and you're really looking into the code here, you may have already noticed that this is loading lazy and fetch priority auto, which isn't what we want for a section at the top of the page. Now, this is my personal preference, but essentially when an image is higher up on a page, I like to use this section.index, which essentially counts the position of the section and applies whether we lazy loading or eager loading depending on where it is. So obviously if the section is further down, we'll want to lazy load the image. We'll want to prioritize images higher up on the page and lazy load the image down below. But if the section is at the top, then we'll want to load with priority. Now, you may be wondering, well, this section was at the top and it wasn't lazy loaded. Why is that? And quite honestly, I had to run a quick little test myself to see why that was today. And essentially, only in production does the section index work. So for example, inside of my Dawn theme here, I added this little custom liquid snippet to test the section.index. And once I added it into the theme, we don't see it. But if I go over to the live version of the 3, it's rendering out the 3rd position, which is correct and awesome. But if you want to do a manual approach just for testing, you can add in a quick little toggle. And in order to do that here, what we'll do is we'll say assign above the fold all the way up at the top. So we'll go here. And then we'll say if it is above the fold, so if the section is above the fold, then we will have eager. And if it is not, then it'll be lazy loaded. And then we're just going to add in a checkbox within here. And Cursor is smart enough to know what we are trying to code. So I'll hit save and go back over into our theme customizer. Now we will be able to toggle on that this image is above the fold. So we will hit save and refresh one more time. And if I go into inspect, you'll notice now we have loading priority set to eager and fetch priority high. So you can either do the index method that I showed you, or you could create a toggle. But generally speaking, if you follow the pattern that I have set here, with images, your site will load a ton faster. Now, the second thing that I want to show you here is something that is vitally important. So we're going to actually go over into Allbirds and we are going to inspect this site. And we're going to go over into the network tab. So if you haven't already, you're going to just want to hit this JS toggle. And as you go down the page, you'll notice tons of different scripts that are loading. Now, it's really nice to use this network tab because we'll be able to diagnose what apps we are using, what apps we aren't using, and so on. So for example, we can see that Allbirds has free gift v1 and free gift v2. We can assume that these are apps over here, and they're both loading in at 32 milliseconds and 33 milliseconds. Now, since they have the v2 version, probably means that they don't need the V1 version, which means that they can hide this within the theme, either remove it or, add some conditional logic to it. Now, since a lot of this can be a little bit of mumbo jumbo, what we can do is copy all this and then paste it into something like Claude to make a little bit more sense of what's going on here. But from skimming, typically you can find different app names. Now, let's say that they have a V1 or V2 JavaScript file in their theme, and they have that located in the theme.liquid. Sometimes what's best is if they're only loading this on, for example, a product page, to only scope that script to the product page. So let's go down over here and let's say that they had a javascript.js and it is an asset URL. What they can do is, if it's only in a product template, we can check to see if it is in a template. And so we can check it like so. So now, since I'm using cursor, it did rename our JavaScript file, but you kind of get the point here that if you wrap the JavaScript in the theme.liquid within, product.template, then what that's doing is only scoping the JavaScript to that page template. You can also do it by template suffix as well. So for our third example here, this is something I see all the time in themes now due to AI. And if we refresh our page here, we're going to see something funky going on. The image that we had before is taking a really long time to load in, and it's actually due to our JavaScript down here. And essentially what the JavaScript is doing is it has this set timeout function, which is waiting a full 10 seconds here to display the image, to make it visible on the page. Now, this is a fairly simplistic example, so it matters a little bit less, but what I've been seeing in AI code, and I know it's written by AI, is when we have these hard-coded 10-second, 5-second set timeout limits, and it's bad practice. And the reason being is that the AI is using this in substitution for looking for something else on the page. And so essentially, if we were to replace this code with better written code, what we'll want to do is wait for the page to load, then we can display the image, or use some sort of observer or mutual observer to find out if, the image is actually on the page or if something else is actually ran on the page. So I see this more a little bit when it has to do with APIs and different functionality, because the AI is just, the user saying it's not working, and then the AI is saying, okay, we'll wait 10 seconds and then it will work. But if, it can function between 7.2 seconds or 1.2 seconds, etc., then why let the user wait the full 10 seconds? It makes no sense. So what we want to do is wait to see until that thing on the page is actually loaded. And then once it's loaded in the code, end up, making sure that our next script runs. So if we refresh our page here, the image should load a lot faster. And there you go. Now it animates nicely in because we wait for the DOM to load, we look for the image. Once the image is there, then we have that nice little transition come into the image. Anyways, those are my 3 optimization tips for you today. If you like this video, please like, and if you are interested in other videos pertaining to cursor, theme development, and just building Shopify themes, I highly recommend you subscribe to my YouTube channel. So anyways, hope you found this useful, and cheers.